tell him about the time we faced doom.
All right. Well, as I remember.
At Avenger headquarters.
Because united, the Avengers are strong.
Welcome to the Marvel Revolution show with myself, Andy Stead.
And I'm Jarian Gibson.
And I'm Alex Stroud.
Excellent. Good to see you, chaps. Good to see you. It's been a while because obviously we didn't record last Sunday. Jarian, how was your holiday?
It was good. Lots of driving, but it was really good. Yeah,
excellent. Good. Excellent. You enjoyed it. Brilliant. Alex, how are you?
Good.
Nothing interesting happening in your life at the moment?
Just way too many Funko purchases, unfortunately. But nothing else really other than that.
Nothing new then.
Yeah, nothing new.
Okay, cool. Well, look, we were due to be joined by a guest at the moment. Not going to reveal too much at this stage. Obviously running a little bit late, maybe got caught up with something else. So we're going to crack on any minute now, talking about Ms.Marvel episode 3, because hopefully what the plan will be to talk about Ms.Marvel, speak to our guest, and then we're going to do another show directly after this show to deal with news. But that all may change depending on whether our guest decides to turn up or not. So if you're out there and if you're listening or watching, give us a shout, drop a comment, say hello, tell us what you've been up to, and obviously give us your opinions on stuff that we talk about. It'd be great to have you involved in a conversation. So we're talking about Funkos, Alex. I'm gonna show you because this is really interesting. So I think I showed last week that I bought a new set. Okay, so this new set was the set with Hawkeye and Spider-Man from Civil War with the 2 keychain pops, and it come with this little Spider-Man. You can see the Spider-Man. It's when he catches Cap's shield on the top of the car or a bus or train or whatever it is, aeroplane, and I see the shield. And when I took him out of the box, the shield fell off, and I was like, "Oh, it's broken," but actually, it's a detachable shield.
So that's so cool.
It's got a little clip on the shield and it clips on his hand. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around clipping the shield to all our different Funkos and see how it looks. Just see who else I can clip the shield to. But I thought that was a really interesting little feature that Funko have put on that one. And it's something that I've never seen before, a detachable element to a Funko.
Does it just clip in, or does it have like a little magnet or anything? Or
no, it just clips in. I'll show you really up close to the camera and see if you can see it. I'll show it on my black shirt and it'll see it.
Okay, it's just got like 2 little prongs.
Yeah, there you go. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So it should go on everybody's wrist. So that's really interesting. But yeah, so that's about as good as my stuff gets. Alex, you I know you bought some new Funkos this week. Did you get anything?
Yeah, so bought some Multiverse of Madness Funkos like Scarlet Witch, Wong, Doctor Strange, Supreme Strange, few of those. So love those. Oh, and I got a Master Mordo as well. So, gotta have that.
Looks like I was checking our chats. The Facebook chat when I did my post doesn't go through the page, so I was making sure the chats coming from Facebook are working. Looks like they're okay. Everyone's still there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Oh, Andy's quiet. We have no Andy audio. Let me try to unmute and mute you from the panel here to see. But Alex's audio is working.
Yeah.
Andy? You still can't hear nothing? Maybe Andy will have to go out and come back in. Looks like Roxy's with us. Hey, Roxy.
Can you hear us?
I don't think you can.
Oh,
He just dropped out. We'll see if he comes back in. So yeah, we'll see if Andy comes back in, see if our guest arrives. If not, we can go ahead and
start talking Miss Marvel.
Yeah, start talking Ms. Marvel, but we'll see here. Once Andy comes back in. I'll tell you one thing. I'm waiting for. There's a new Sanctum coming out.
Lego set.
Yep, a brand new Sanctum. It's a bigger one. So there's Andy's back.
I'm not sure what happened now. Just all of a sudden couldn't hear anybody. But
You're good. We're talking about Lego. There's a new Lego Sanctum coming out. So it looks like a bigger one. It looks like it's kind of modular. It has some things where you can tie in Gargantos into it as well. Yeah. But that's coming out, I think, August 1st. Things like 3,000 pieces. So I'm waiting for that one to come out. But yeah, I haven't picked up anything new lately.
And is anybody reading anything different?
No, I think I finished the 3rd issue of that Ms.Marvel run, the one that we talked about last time that kind of runs sort of parallel with the show, sort of. But I think that's about the last thing that I've read recently.
Nice. I mean, I maybe we'll just pad a little bit of time out just to see if our guest does turn up. Before we do start talking about Miss Marvel, it's probably worth just having a little quick mention of Obi-Wan finale.
Yeah,
I thought it was excellent. I thought it was really well delivered. I thought the last 2 episodes were fantastic. I mean, I thought all of the episodes were fantastic, but I thought the last 2 episodes in particular were amazing. And to say that I didn't cry when Obi-Wan and Anakin were having their conversation and Obi-Wan was apologising, something probably wouldn't be. I had a little tear in my eye, but I thought it was really well done, and I really enjoyed it. And I tell you what I really liked, and I tell you what it reminded me of. So when you saw Ewan McGregor at the beginning of that series, yeah, he was very dejected. He was very sort of drawn down. You know, you could see he was very slumped. You know, he was going through that monotonous routine where he was working, stealing the piece of meat for his horse thing, getting on the transport, you know, not really doing anything, not confronting people when they were doing wrong things. And he was very kind of just dejected and depressed, really, wasn't he? And then if you saw him after he had the battle with Vader, when he come back to Tatooine and went back to his cave, and when he went to see Luke, he had this kind of upright look about it. His whole face was sort of pulled up, and you could tell he'd come out of that funk.
Yep. And
I think it was really subtle in the way that that Ewan McGregor did it, but I thought it was brilliant. And what it reminded me of, there's don't know if anybody's seen The Long Good Friday with Bob Hoskins. It's quite an old movie, sort of gangster movie, London based. But there's a great moment. I won't actually, this probably will ruin it, but it's a really old movie, so you've had plenty of years to see it. There's a great bit at the end where he's sitting in the back of a car and he realizes he's about to get killed, and his face just tells the story completely. And he just changes from this person who's had everything to this person who is about to have nothing. And it's just a really great way of, I think certain actors have that ability just to be able to change the way that their face looks, almost like that, I'm not quite sure what to call it, but just the way that they hold their face. and it just tells a story, the way that they do it. And I thought Ewan McGregor done a great job of doing that in Obi-Wan.
It's almost like emoting, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. We've got Roxy and Lisa. That's all right, Lisa. It's okay that you're a little bit late. That's okay. We'll let you off. Look, let's get into talking about Miss Marvel, episode 3, because if we could talk about that, we might be lucky and our guest may well turn up and we can crack on with that conversation. But if she doesn't, then, we'll do the news.
Before we get to Ms. Marvel real quick, I just want to say one more thing about Obi-Wan. It's like everything before the original trilogy, the Vader scenes are always so much better. This is probably up there with Rogue One showing of his power, and so forth. The last part of the Obi-Wan series. So I just want to say that with showing Vader, I'm glad they're going back and touching on those things to see how strong with the Force he was and his power and what he can do.
He's almost at his apex now of his evilness and of his power, isn't he? You from this point to Rogue One, pretty much, where he cuts down all of those rebels. That this kind of next 10 years is obviously his time, isn't it, of where he's most evil, most powerful. And then once we get introduced to him, you can tell he is. I mean, by the time Empire comes around, he's on the turn, isn't he? He's on the way to being a good guy. I am your father, we can rule. He's having these thoughts of, betraying the Emperor. Obviously up until this point, he's been kind of learning how to be a Sith Lord, hasn't he? But he truly is one now, and this is his time. So it'd be really interesting to see a series about him now in this 10 years. That would be cool. But I totally agree with you, Joe. Somebody mentioned on our Star Wars group the other day, they said that Disney have done right by Vader. Everything that Disney have done since they've had Star Wars with Vader has been spot on, and I agree with that. So hi RMC, how you doing? Hope you're well. Okay, so should we get stuck into Ms. Marvel then?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, so episode 3, it told us a lot, didn't it? It told us a lot, and I think it started. I love that little flashback scene was just perfect, and that was just what we were saying, wasn't it? In the week before, that we might see the whole train thing, and we might see kind of where the grandmother or the great grandmother sort of started going wrong or went missing, and we got a little glimpse into that, what they were trying to find. We obviously first introduced to the fact that this group weren't from Earth, and then we got that great little 10 rings Shang-Chi link that we called, and do you know what, I think we come up with that. I was really surprised. I was like, yes, brilliant. That's exactly. We said that that they would be there, and I was sort of giving ourselves a pat on the back as I was watching that. I was like, we said that. So that was great. That was great to see that pop up. What was your guys' thoughts on that little flashback scene?
So the whole connection and the link back to this being like them being almost from like another universe, I think is really interesting, and I think this was to test the waters because they can bring in so many other characters this way. Yep. And I think if they do it and it goes really well with Kamala and like her ancestry and stuff like that, like, oh, they're from another universe and they're here now, like, that's a great way to just be like, oh, it happened with her. Like, we can do it with, say, X-Men. We can do it with other characters. So I think I really do like this little thing that they've done where they've kind of like mixed it up, and they've said that they're like from another universe. And I kind of took it that like train was almost from the other universe as well. And so like that may have been the moment. Maybe it was like the train out of their universe or something like that, you know. Yeah. And that's how when they got exiled, they got banished here, and that was like them being ejected out of that universe.
Yeah, I never thought that. Sorry, Joe. I was just going to say I never thought that, Alex. And even if it wasn't real, it would be a really cool metaphor, wouldn't it? You know, a train journey, getting on a train to go, you know, to be kicked out of the universe. I've got, Jared, if yours is relevant to that, I've got one thing that touches on dimensions. But if you want to speak first, you go for it.
Well, mine's about dimensions, and I almost wonder with the dimensions is you saw. I don't know if you saw the picture I posted where the side by side of the 10 rings and the bracelet and the colors and what looks like the things in there. I almost wonder if that beacon that we saw at the end of Shang-Chi with Wong and Captain Marvel and Banner, if it's the same dimension universe that they're both from. Are they going to try to tie them more together? Because that 10 rings thing on the floor was not a coincidence. And I wonder if possibly could the 10 rings be from the other band? Or, you know, the other band broken out into 10 rings, maybe, okay. Or does her grandmother have the other band because her grandmother saw the train too in the vision as well when Namja and Kamala touched the bracelet when they were fighting towards the end of the episode. So I'm kind of wondering, is the other band the 10 rings possibly broke into that, or is it, you know, another band out there that her grandmother maybe has? And then we also the blue with the band too. So, you know, Kree, you know, something with the Kree scroll war here, maybe tie in as this as well. You know, the way that we think the one dude from Damage Control is a scroll, the blue arm with the band, could that be Creed's? Is all tied back to that Kree scroll war as well.
Yeah.
Do they go into this other realm, this other dimension, universe. They kind of use both those words kind of interchangeably in the past. So,
and that was exactly my point that I wanted to bring up, Alex. So I'm glad you just said that, because
yeah.
we've got quite a few different words, I guess, that they use to describe different things. So there's realm, there's universe, there's dimension. Is there any other words like that? I mean, I'm not sure what the what's the word, like the explanation or the meaning or description or whatever you want of each of those actually is. What's the definition? That's the word I was looking for.
Yep.
What's the definition of a dimension, and what's the definition of a universe? And then obviously we know from the TVA we've got timelines as well. So are timelines different from universes, or are they the same thing? Or do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It becomes a little confusing. I think it's like one of those things where it's like, if you have like one beginning choice, then that eventually just makes like a spider web of infinite branching decisions, and every one of those becomes a timeline almost, you know? So it's almost kind of that logic, I guess, like every decision, every choice makes another decision, which leads to more decisions, which branches more, which branches more, which branches more.
And I guess that again, I think we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, that kind of mirrors religion in itself. And this is obviously, there's a lot in this, in this series about her religion. And religion is very much like that, isn't it? Religion probably started off as one belief, and then people just branched off because they believed something ever so slightly different. And then that's where we've got all these different arms of religion, without getting into a religious debate here. But, there is that similarity, I think.
And I was just gonna say, I think the Djinn is also another really nice touch to this story too, because within a lot of stories they're seen as both good or bad entities. So
and demons.
Yeah, so they can kind of like play with what their intention is here, you know.
I was going to say, explain a little, because it sounds like you've got a little bit of knowledge of that, Alex. Have you? I mean, I don't know, but I mean, I have literally no idea at all. And I was reading, I heard something last week on Thursday, and it said like Djinn has now become like the most Googled thing. Like, everyone's like, "What's that?" Started typing it out. I mean, I have no idea, and I still don't, because I'm almost too stubborn to Google it. I thought I'd just wait until talk to you guys. So, have we got any background on the Djinn?
I think like there's kind of like a difference of like opinions, like religiously, like some people see them kind of like as like demons and stuff like that, some religions and stuff like that. Some also kind of see them just as like supernatural entities. But then there are like people that also see them as like genies, you know, like genies in a bottle kind of type thing. It's just a difference of like culture around the world and difference of opinions on things and stuff.
Yeah, it was interesting when Kamala's dad saw Bruno reading the book, and he kind of said a couple things in that scene. He said genies, demons, another dimension, exile, lurking in the shadows, type of thing. So, that right there was a big clue. It can mean different things, different people. It looks like, and it looks like possibly over time it has changed. And maybe there was like the force, the good side and the bad side of the force, type of thing, in that way.
So it's more of an umbrella word or definition for a group of people, and like you said, it can be interpreted in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, like DC has a character that's named like Johnny Thunderbolt, and he has the Thunderbolt pin, and it has a genie inside of it, and that's basically like a Djinn, in essence too. So it's like, there's different versions of it, and they're seen as both good and bad forces.
Right. So. Gotcha.
Yeah, another person in the chat said they thought it also was a type of genie as well. So
yeah,
and then also too, so we talk about dimensions and realms and universes, and I believe Namja specifically referred to it as the Nor dimension.
Right.
So which again, I think they're playing right along the clandestine play, immortal, that kind of stuff. And then she mentioned that others can't access full potential in this dimension to Kamala, but since Kamala was born there, that she can. And I'm not sure about Kamran as well, if he was born there or not. Maybe he can also.
So was her mom not born there? That's what I'm curious about. Like,
Yeah. So you mean the great grandma?
no, I'm saying like Kamala's mom. Wouldn't she have been born there as well?
I think Kamala's mom and her grandma were all born in this universe dimension. But I think her great grandmother, Aisha, was not. It
Okay.
seems like Aisha and Namja were from that dimension, exiled here, and they settled here. But then she had Nani, the grandmother, and then Kamala's mom, and then Kamala.
So if any of them would have put on this band and it would have happened to them, they would be literally trying to use them the same way.
Potentially, I'm not sure if every generation has it.
Yeah.
Maybe Nani, the grandmother, since she was the first generation born there, maybe she had it. Maybe it skipped her daughter, Kamala's mom, and then went to Kamala because maybe her brother doesn't have it either. And if Nani, her grandmother, does not have the second bracelet, it almost seems like the bracelet does unlock the powers, and it doesn't need to be on full time because she saw that vision as well at the end of the episode. Because she was like, "You have to come to Karachi. You saw the train, come, that kind of stuff."
Yeah.
It was interesting to see Kamala get to use her powers a little bit more.
Yep, we saw in beginning.
Yeah, we did see quite a few in beginning times, but I quite liked how it was very haphazard the way that she was using her powers. It was almost by accident. She didn't really overpower anybody, really. It was she was still obviously very new to using her powers, so that was really nice. I'm glad they didn't just kind of go, "Oh look, we've had a montage," which we did, and it always makes me laugh when I see a montage in any movie, because all I think is of Team America and the character in Team America training up to become like an assassin, and the montage song, but but we had a montage, and it was nice to say, look, that she can use them as such, but she's not mastered them even close to that yet.
It's almost parallel to Danvers and Captain Marvel, to where she was training, she was still unsure of her powers. They can be always thought they could be taken away, type of thing, and then she gets her full potential by the end. I wonder if we're going to see Kamala on that same parallel by the 6th episode, if she'll have that moment like Carol did, where basically she's unleashed and she has full control.
She's like going through a phase right now where like her powers are kind of like figuring themselves out, kind of almost.
Yep.
I do think it's really interesting that her powers almost look very similar to like the universe that the Djinn are from.
Yep.
Like, or that dimension or whatever, like that light, it looks very similar to that universe. So
and isn't it really interesting what you just said there, Alex? If you took away powers and just put body and just said body instead, it would be very reflective of what most teenage kids, male or female, go through between sort of 15 and 14 and 18, that sort of period of their lives where they're getting to work out how their bodies work and how their what they can do. And that's exactly what she's doing now. She's almost going through puberty with her powers, isn't she? So that is interesting. I enjoyed the fight scene. That was interesting. However, I was a little bit like, they're pretty useless. the soldiers that they took, you're like, you've had a long time to be good at this, and they haven't managed to, they got one of them got taken out by a cloth or something, didn't they? I don't know. Bruno threw something at one of them, didn't he? And put one off. I was a little bit like, oh, that was a bit naff, but.
Well, it depends. If they're from the Nord dimension, like Namjo was saying, they don't have their full potential, so maybe they're not fully powered here, and that can make up for that. RMC goes, she's figuring it all out, figuring out her powers, finding her way. Very confusing for her girl her age, I'd imagine. Especially with that and boys, between Bruno and Kamran and that kind of stuff. So You know, like Smart Hulk said in Endgame, you know, these are confusing times.
Yeah.
Right?
What if they draw their power from that dimension, and them being cut off is like slowly like making
Draining
them
their
lose their
power.
power, and her being like from this dimension makes her like the doorway to that dimension, so they want to use her as that.
As that
Yeah.
conduit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they very quickly went from. I mean, do you think they was always going to be as evil as they ended up being at the end of that episode? Because they very quickly went from almost wanting to help her and wanting to be her friend, and then when she kind of just even had a glimpse of not wanting to help them and or being a bit doubtful, you know,
Mhm.
they were like, right, that's it, we're just going to kill you and just make you do what we want you to do. You know, they
Yeah.
didn't like talking to her at all.
It was all fake, but what's funny is like they've been doing this for like what 100 years, and then suddenly like they find out Kamala's going through this, and they're like, "Okay, we want you to do this," and she's like, "Well, I don't know," and they're like, "Okay, well, we can't wait anymore. Like it's been 100 years, but we
Yeah.
can't wait anymore," and it's like, "Oh, okay," like like so that's where I'm kind of like, really, you couldn't have maybe like tried to like push her along like for another couple of weeks or something, like
Maybe
Yeah,
they're just getting impatient, or they know that the longer they're there, like the power's draining, that they could end up dying.
Yeah.
If they don't get back, or something's going on with that.
I think you're absolutely right, and I don't like. What do I know about writing and what do I know about directing? I'm just a consumer of this stuff. However, I do feel like we went from 0 to 100 in what felt like a couple of hours, and it was almost like we just needed another scene somewhere in between with the group and Kamala, where Kamala was like, "Oh, I don't know." Well, all we got was Cameron saying, "Yeah, she's doubtful," and they were like, "Right, that's it. We're gonna go and beat her up and kidnap her, basically."
We also don't know what happened after that cave that we saw Aisha and Namja where they split up. We don't know what happened in between there. We don't know what happened to Aisha fully. Hopefully that gets fleshed out, because maybe they are evil and Aisha finds that they are, and then a similar parallel what happened with Aisha is happening with Kamala and them as well.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
there could be some back history there we don't know yet.
And we might find that out from the grandmother.
Yep.
We might find out from the grandmother. The grandmother might have some stories.
And then speaking of, this being a Jersey story, and they've already mentioned Bon Jovi before and how the parents hooked up. Notice the wedding band was called Brown Jovi. Yeah. And then during the fight scene, they played the Bon Jovi music during the fight scene. If they don't get Bon Jovi cameo in this, it'll they're missing the mark there with that, because they've said it. I think 2 out of 3 episodes we've had a Bon Jovi reference so far.
Yeah,
they need to go ahead and bring him in, and then just go ahead and use Wanted Dead or Alive in a Ghost Rider movie or show or something. Like, why not?
I think it's great. We've had some really great references to stuff. We've had the Mosque Bros and Brown Jovi and
Illuminatis.
The Illuminatis. And what was the other one? We had there was another reference to sort of something pop culture, but had sort of a Muslim twist to it as well, which was really, and I love that. I think that's great. I think that's a really fun way of bringing awareness to things, isn't it? And just combining those two things. So yeah, that was excellent. I really liked the Brown Jovi.
RMC goes, what about Springsteen? He's a Jersey kid, which I'm surprised that too. Yeah, but they seem all in on Bon Jovi though. So
yeah, for sure. So we've spoken about the link between this and Shang-Chi, or the 10 Rings at least. Do we think there's going to be? I mean, I can't see a link at the moment, other than the fact that she's called Ms.Marvel to Captain Marvel. I'm not seeing anything. I'm seeing more, with the Shang-Chi, with the ancient things. And I mean, I don't know, because obviously there's lots of rumors that people are saying, oh, is Carol going to have a bit of a cameo? Is the cameo going to have more substance to it than just purely the fact that Kamala likes Carol Danvers?
Yeah, because you mentioned the whole Shang-Chi thing and that kind of stuff. There's also Eternals, it seems like, ties as well. They've already mentioned Kingo. Was that old knife we saw? Was that an Eternals artifact? Also too, with the clandestine people from the Nord dimension, they mentioned non-aging like Eternals, in there. And then also too, they talk about love and humanity as well. There's some Eternals parallels there. So we are on a Shang-Chi Eternals parallel here, with all these things connecting. And I do find it interesting that, how they will tie in Carol, other than her being a big fangirl of Carol in this.
Well, and
They mentioned the cosmic powers. She mentioned cosmic, so that's the only thing we have so far. Go ahead, Alex.
I was gonna say it also looked like that Kree arm in the beginning of this episode
Yep.
was what the band was found on, which is interesting because we know Carol was, with the Kree for a long
Yep.
time. And with the 10 rings, she said, like, oh, I've never seen anything like this. Like, so I feel like she would be somebody that would be like heavily in Kree knowledge, for Earth. She would be somebody that we would probably like lean on to be like, hey, tell us more about what this might be. So like the fact that she didn't know, that's the only thing that stumps me when saying that they could be related to the band,
but it also is more ancient though, so
yeah, but I'm just saying like they could very well be like pre-Kree. Like
Yep.
they could be like something that maybe the Kree once had that was pre-Kree or something,
which I have a theory I want to share that I mentioned. But RMC goes, I hope we see Carol. So I've been thinking about this and the colors in the artifact, just the way the powers are. We know that Carol comes from the Tesseract, the Space Stone. We know this is, the 10 rings are from ancient, some kind of beacon. So is there a Tesseract Space Stone tie in here? Are all these artifacts that we're seeing right now, or were they made from the Space Stone Tesseract? Throughout history, I don't want to go back to going through into that, the Space Stone, but there's some things here. Eric Selvig was mentioned by Bruno. Selvig mentioned another dimension initially, I think, when working with the Tesseract, whether I think it was in Avengers or at the end of the post-credit scene in Loki. I can't remember when he mentioned that. Thor, about another dimension with the Tesseract work. So this is where I keep coming back to the Tesseract Space Stone here. Like I said, Carol's powers come from it. The ancient beings from another dimension. Maybe they use Tesseract to create things. Can this go back further than the Asgardian lore in the MCU? How did the Asgardians get the Tesseract? Where'd that come from? So I know we don't want to go back to Infinity Stones and that kind of stuff, but there's a lot of things here that are kind of making me go back that way.
Mm-hmm.
I've just had a complete mind fart here. Where does Monica get her powers from?
She got it from the Hex.
That's right. I was just, when you're just sitting there going, I'm trying to think of where her powers are coming from. I'm like, I wonder whether there's a link between the three of them that have got their powers all from. Because I was thinking, maybe Kamala has got her powers from the Space Stone, like you were saying, and obviously Carol did. And I was thinking, where did Monica get hers from? And then I was going, hold on a moment, no, that's not it. But yeah, she got it from the Hex. Yeah,
that's the only thing I can think of though, because this is all kind of going back to that, and maybe it goes back to not the Space Stone, but
the cube itself.
The ancient beings before Asgardians got it, before it was on Norway, before Red Skull got it, all that kind of stuff. So, which RMC goes super ancient, and then he goes, I think it's certainly possible. Colors are same, aren't they? So,
which they could put a weird little spin on this, and they could say, "Hey, it's a space stone." You travel space. We never said that it was the space stone that only works in your universe. Like you can use the space stone to travel to other universes because they're space. They could always do something like that if they wanted to.
Yeah, for sure. And just to, I think we can sort of wrap up the Ms.Marvel conversation in a second, or Ms.Marvel episode 3 conversation. But just to again, just touch on how good the acting is across the board. Actually, to be fair, I was just going to say about Iman Vellani, but actually, I think across the board it's very, very good. I'm loving the dad. I think he's brilliant. The brother's excellent. Bruno's great. They're all very, very good. And she obviously is the star of the show, and she really is the star of the show. It's going to be. I think I mentioned it last week, but I still think it's going to be great to see, her and Kate and maybe Peter and a couple of other of these youngsters all sort of on a team together and causing chaos together, and having the sort of older people like Strange and all of these people sort of, be sort of sitting there, what are we going to do with these kids kind of thing, But yeah, she's a revelation, I think, in my book.
Yeah, I agree. And RMC goes, he loves her story. So yeah, she's definitely killing it. She's perfect for the role.
Hmm.
Yeah, she just whoops, I clicked that off. Yeah, she's perfect for the role. So she's definitely doing it. And a couple other things too. Notice that Bruno gave her the iconic mask in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
We saw that, and then the damage control weapons, those kind of sonic pulsating weapons, wasn't it the same weapon that Rhodey used on Wanda in Civil War?
Which isn't that based on the stuff they used in Incredible Hulk against Hulk?
Yep, I think
It's
so.
like Stark Tech.
Yep. And then another thing that's kind of been on my mind here. So I definitely think damage control is infiltrated by Skrulls, and that they probably infiltrated that during the blip. There's something fishy going on with damage control. It's very Skrull-like. And then didn't WandaVision had a Skrull that approached Monica as well?
Mhm.
And so, was her space engineer that she worked with, was that also a Skrull? We don't know who that was. We just saw someone like in human form, like a throwaway, but I wonder if we get anything tied back to that. And then, Fury was off world for a year and No Way Home,
Yeah.
or Far From Home.
Hmm.
So, Fury's a secretive person. How did damage control know that?
Hmm.
Right? Because remember, Fury keeps everything close to the chest. Like when he got killed in Winter Soldier, no one knew, right? Maria Hill knew and the Doctor knew, and that was it. No one else knew. So, and even with that, Fury's always been a secretive person, kept things very close to the chest. So, how does damage control openly know that Fury, is not on Earth, right?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
did a faction of Skrulls break off during the blip, or are there a fraction of Skrulls that are evil that kind of said we don't want to deal with Talos and his ways? We're gonna, kind of do our own thing. So that's just interesting.
Hmm.
And then the last piece of it that I thought about, that I have notes here, is that is damage control a branch of Osborn setting up Dark Reign or Thunderbolts? Is Val a Skrull? Sharon Carter could be a Skrull. There's some stuff here being set up that we haven't seen yet. And when we get to the news, 5-minute statement about where Phase 4 is going into Phase 5 as well. So I think there's other things being set up here that we've kind of seen subtle things throughout these shows that are not 100% clear yet, but I think it's starting to become more clear.
Yeah. Yeah. I, on the Fury thing, that really interests me because obviously we saw him get blipped. I'm pretty confident that was him. I'm pretty confident that was the real Nick Fury that got blipped. So then he's obviously come back, and the moment he's come back, he's gone.
Yep,
pretty much. He's gone into space. If we're to believe that was him in space at the end of Far From Home. Yeah, is that him? Yeah, that was it. Yeah, it was Far From Home. If we're to believe that that's him, he's obviously gone into space and sent a Skrull obviously down in his place. So what's he been doing? What's he up there for? Why has he gone there?
Is he working with Carol? Is he looking for Nova? And was Talos his wife? Were they the ones at Stark's funeral? Was that them?
Well, it must have been, because if you remember in Far From Home, the Nick Fury said he saw
that's right,
at the funeral. So, and we know that was the Nick Fury that was Talos. So yeah, I would say that was that Maria Hill and Fury at Stark's funeral were Talos and his wife. Yeah.
This is always such like an interesting like problem in comics and shows when you have a villain that you never actually know who and which person is them. And so I really look forward to how they plan on doing this in the future, where I bet that there will be several characters like Shannon Carter, other characters that have been here for however long, that we're going to find out have been Skrulls for so many projects in the past, and we just are like, oh, that's Sharon Carter. No, she's been a Skrull since Madripoor, or something like that, So
yeah, I won't be surprised if Sharon and Val are Skrulls.
Yeah. Val could be Vernecki.
Yep. RMC goes, they seem more nefarious version of damage control than what Stark intended. Seems like someone else is running them, which is exactly, because damage control was originally just to clean up the mess. They weren't like an arm of the government to go after, supers, you know, supes.
Mhm.
And I almost wonder where are the Accords at here? With Stark being gone, did the Accords kind of bring them damage control as an arm of the Accords, of the Sokovia Accords? So, you know, you would think you would see Accords type people going after Miss Marvel and doing this type of things, not damage control, because damage control is like the cleanup and the storage of any kind of weapons and rubble and that kind of stuff, not going after superheroes. That's
So,
where it's throwing me off here with this.
so Sokovia Accords was more international, though, right? Whereas
Yep.
like damage control would be like more of like
United
U.S.
States.
Yeah, so I think that's maybe the difference here, but it
Unless-
all goes into work together, mesh
Yeah.
together. So
Unless like the Accord is saying like as part of the UN, because I think the UN was in control of the Accords, right? So I
Mhm.
guess unless they said, hey, damage control, we're now going to help you with weapons and this kind of stuff, and you're going to be our boots on the street, boots on the ground people in the US, maybe, I don't know, but something's weird with damage control.
yeah, it seems like they're trying to like militarize themselves almost, like like almost become their own section of the government.
And did they get the Tinkerer from Vulture's group, and is he part of
Yeah.
damage control now and helping with weapons? Because
Yeah.
what happened to him after the end of Homecoming?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, sure. I think there's always the unsuspecting project, isn't it? You know, like this one, I think very unsuspecting. We didn't. I mean, at first, if you think 3 weeks ago, we was all sitting there going, "Oh, I'm not sure whether this is going to be for us," as in sort of middle-aged males. But we're all loving it.
I was ready to go.
I certainly don't. I think this is going to be really, really important. This show. I think it's going to be more important than a lot of people were giving it credit for. And I think actually, if people have sort of shied away from it because they thought that it wouldn't be for them in regards to, it would be full of teen angst or whatever, they're going to miss a big chunk of this of the MCU in this phase.
Yeah, and I wonder too that if with this tying into the Marvels and with them changing the schedule, if they're going to be adding more stuff to that because of what's going on here in this series. And that could be part of the reason why because we know that Ant-Man Quantumania was farther along than the Marvels. I wonder if they were waiting to see the reception of this show, how things would play out, and if they're going to adjust, reshoot things for the Marvels. Because I think they were saying that the Marvels and Secret Invasion were going through reshoots at the same time, and they're filming in the same area. So I wonder how that's all changing and playing the things going forward. RMC about damage control, they're a fake branch. They just claim they're damage control. That could be it too. Something is definitely off with them.
Yeah, for sure. Right. I think, have we rounded off our Miss Marvel episode 3 conversation?
Unless you want to keep talking about stuff, I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Is there anything more to say at this stage? I mean, we know from Pakistan, but that's about as far as I think we've analysed it quite well. I mean, if there's anything else to say.
Yeah, speaking of Pakistan, and why won't her mother leave Karachi, or her grandmother, Nani, leave Karachi? She missed her daughter's wedding. She missed her grandson's wedding. It's almost like Nani... I hope we find this out next episode if Kamala does go to Karachi.
Yeah, she's going.
Because there's something more that we need to find out with Nani, because, like I said, she will not leave there. And it's like, is she waiting for her mom to come back? Her mom said, I'll be back. Does she have the other bracelet? There's, Nani's got some stuff there. I don't think Nani's necessarily clandestine-ish, because she's aged. But there's more there, and hopefully we find that out next episode.
Maybe they're trying to keep the two bracelets apart.
Yeah.
Like it's like one of those things, like what they did with the mother boxes in the Snyder Cut, where they, took them and separated them.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just buried ours in a hole, though.
Yeah. 6 feet deep.
But yeah, I think that
they won't find it here in the dirt.
No.
I think that I think she's going to be a linchpin to this story. She's going to change where this story goes once we meet the grandmother, for sure. Yeah.
Sorry, I just think how dumb the box of man was hidden. I mean, like the mother box had like the Amazonians watching it.
Like,
The other one was in
ever
Atlantis.
since it was put there. Same with
they were like,
Atlantis. Ever
they
since
were like
it was
on
put there.
shift. Yeah, same thing with
yeah.
Atlantis. They were all on shift watching it. Man, what is buried this 6 feet deep? No,
Then somebody comes in and builds a shopping mall, and they dig it up, and somebody's like, "Oh, what do we do with this? Oh, give it to Star Labs." Like, like that's probably what happened. Like,
yeah, it was quite funny.
Someone put a pool in their backyard and found a mother box.
yeah.
The dog dug it up.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, stop it. Stop it.
I'm crying over here.
What? So RMC said, what planet was the anti-life equation on again? He forgets.
Earth.
Yeah,
he's
on Earth.
Because Darkseid comes here. It's like the only place he's ever lost, and then he leaves and then forgets that not only is the anti-life equation here, but he also forgets the only place that he ever lost a battle at, which was Earth.
And all 3 mother boxes are there too. Form.
Yeah.
We could have gone anywhere in the universe, but we left them all on the same planet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Look, I'll tell you what, because we've got another show scheduled in 14 minutes. So should we?
Well, actually, it's we can start early. I put it on for a half hour after this one ends, just in case we had to take a break. But we can fire that up right away.
Yeah. Okay. Should we take a quick? Should we take 5 minutes just so that we can reset?
Yeah.
And then
let's say let's do that at half past. We'll fire it up. How that sound?
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Perfect. So 10-minute break, and then we'll be back, and we'll do the week's news, and we'll get stuck into all of that. Yeah.
Cool deal.
Excellent. Well, look, listen. If you're listening to this one episode, thank you for listening to this one episode. We got really stuck into Ms.Marvel there, and had a nice laugh right at the end. So if you're listening live, if you're here live, if you're watching us live, go and have a tea break, and we'll see you in 10 minutes. All right, take care. Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Why don't you tell them about the time we